The Pheasant Tail Nymph is a nymph pattern that has stood the test of time, mainly because it works so well. There are many different variations, but this one is fairly easy to tie and exceptionally effective. Pheasant tail nymphs are generally tied on hooks from size 12 down to 18. Both an NW1 and an NW3 will work well. Here, we're going to go with an NW3 in a size 14. Start by getting your hook firmly secured in the vise. For tying thread, load your bobbin with a spool of 140 denier black ultra thread. With a jam knot, start your thread on the hook shank just above the point and take wraps rearward to about the hook barb. You can then snip the tag end off. On a pheasant tail feather, pull down 10 to 12 fibers and snip them off close to the stem. The idea here is to keep the tips aligned. Measure the fibers to form a tail a bit less than a hook shank in length, and then secure them to the hook with a few tight wraps of thread. Leave the butt ends of the pheasant to extend out past the hook eye. Do not trim them off. Snip a 3-inch piece of copper ultra wire free from the spool and secure one end to the hook with wraps of tying thread. Lift the pheasant tail fibers up and take wraps up the hook shank to about the 2/3 point. Carefully begin wrapping the pheasant tail fibers around the hook shank in adjacent wraps, all the way up to your tying thread. Once there, you can tie the fibers off and then snip the remaining butts free. Get hold of your copper wire and make 4 or 5 evenly spaced wraps around the pheasant tail fibers to create segmentation and increase the fly's durability. Tie the wire off with your tying thread and then use the lower part of your scissors to snip it off close. Once again, snip 10 to 12 pheasant tail fibers from the stem. These will form the fly's wing case. Orient the fibers so the tips are pointing rearward and tie the butt ends in on top of the hook shank. Pull 2 peacock curls free from the bundle. Snip away an inch or 2 of the brittle tips and then secure both hurls to the hook shank. You should end with your thread just behind the eye. Using one hurl at a time, take wraps all the way up to the tying thread before securing the hurl and trimming the remainder off. Doing it this way ensures the hurl looks bushy and full. With that done, pull the pheasant tail fibers forward and bind them down just behind the eye. Carefully, use your tying scissors to trim the butts off as close as possible. You can then take wraps of tying thread to form the head of the fly. Finish with 2 or 3 good half-hitch knots and then cut your thread free. Apply a drop or 2 of head cement to the wraps and your pheasant tail is ready to fish. Don't be afraid to vary the colors and materials on this pattern.